Let's face it, most entrepreneurs are hunting for something. Some are hunting for money, some are hunting for freedom, some are hunting for purpose, identity, or a second chance to build a life that actually feels like their own. But today's guest took that idea a little bit more literally. Welcome, or hopefully welcome back to The Reluctant Entrepreneur. After building and franchising a chain of retail stores, my guest reached a point in life where a lot of people might have chosen comfort, predictability, and the safety of what they already knew. Instead, he made a different choice. He stepped away from one vision of success and chased something far less predictable: raw adventure, the outdoors, and the business of hunting. Today, I'm joined by Kurt Belding, founder of Western Obsession TV and Hunt Adventures. Kurt's story has a lot of ingredients I love exploring on this show. He built businesses, he franchised retail stores, he learned the scars that come with entrepreneurship. And then, at a point in life when many people might protect what they've already built, he chose reinvention. Western Obsession TV is built around showing hunting the way it really happens, not just the polished highlight reel, not just the perfect shot and the trophy photo. Kurt's approach includes the missed shots, the blown stalks, the bad weather, the gear failures, the hard climbs, and all the moments where things didn't go according to plan. And as many entrepreneurs know, that sounds a lot like business. Kurt has also built Western Obsessions into more than a media brand. Through Hunt Adventures, his team helps connect hunters with vetted outfitters and real-world experience they trust for themselves. So today, we're going to talk about Kurt's entrepreneurial journey, the business he built before Western Obsessions, the decision to walk away and reinvent himself, and what extreme pursuits like hunting can teach us about grit, failure, preparation, risk, and building something that actually feels true to who you are. My conversation with Kurt begins right now. Stick around. Kurt, you're not sitting in a blind. You're not climbing a mountain. You're not being chased by a wild animal. This is the Kurt I haven't seen when I was doing my research on you.
Sure. No, yeah. Hey, thanks for having me on, Mike. But yeah, if I was doing that all the time, I don't think I'd be married for very much longer.
Well, yeah, or maybe alive. Yeah, either way.
Yeah,
Yeah, right. Either will kill you, by the way. So
that's true.
yeah, we won't even go down that road. But well, yeah. Thanks, Kurt, for agreeing to be my guest. I have talked to guests in every corner of entrepreneurship: accountants, lawyers, artists, you name it. And you're the first professional hunter. I'm sure a lot of my guests hunt, but I don't think they do it for a living. And so this is going to be a really interesting conversation because I know very little about hunting other than, what I see in the media, which I'm sure is not always a very accurate portrayal. So let's go back in the time machine. Before Western Obsessions, you built and franchised a chain of retail stores. Take us back to that period. What were you building, and what did you learn from trying to scale that whole kind of business, the whole franchise model, and all of that?
Yeah, I've always been drawn to fitness. From playing sports as a young kid through high school and college, fitness was always a pretty big part of my life. So getting into a sports nutrition retail business just was a fit for me. And the things that I learned, man, there's so many learning moments through, and I did that since early 20s to when I turned 40. So, 20 years
Wow.
of that type of business, so, lots of failures in 20 years of doing that. That's, you compile a lot of, like you said, scars. You compile a lot of learning moments that you can then, apply to the next journey.
So your former experience was in the franchise model. I've talked to quite a few franchise experts on this show. And one of the things most franchises have going for them is when the franchisee purchases or invests into a franchise, they're given a playbook. They're giving they're giving binders full of standard operating procedures, SOPs, and basically it's like, do this and this will happen, which many times is accurate. Probably most of the times is accurate. Then the alternative, or in your case, the next version of Kurt, didn't come with operation manuals and SOPs and all of that. It was up to Kurt to kind of reinvent that. And hunting, I'm sure there's a lot of similarities in business in general, but obviously the world of hunting and adventure and all that is quite different than stocking shelves and turning inventory and all of that. So, did the structure and the organization and the binders full of SOPs from your franchise days help you, hurt you in building your own version of that? Although not franchise, but building your own version of a company?
Yeah. Well, everything needs SOPs, right? And those SOPs change as you grow and change. But I'll back up a little bit. My first experience of business, I was actually a GNC, a General Nutrition Center franchisee. So I was the franchisee, and I was pretty young. I was in my 20s, and I was a knucklehead, like I think a lot of franchisees are, and think that they know how to do things better than the proven model, right? So I didn't follow a lot of the SOPs and the standard procedures, and which didn't actually, I wasn't very successful at it because I didn't follow it. But at the time, I didn't know that. At the time, I wanted to go do my own thing. So I broke off and started my own sports nutrition company, which was called Fit Republic. And then I became the franchisor. So I had to come up with all the SOPs and all the docs and all the training manuals and the employee handbooks and all that to give to my franchisee, which is ironically, now I became the franchisor, and then I had a bunch of knucklehead franchisees that thought they could do things better the way they wanted to do it, right? So it was a very ironic, just a moment for me for sure.
It's like when it's like when you're a punky kid, and then you eventually have kids, and they're punky kids. Yeah, it's a little bit of revenge. But
but to your
people who
question
think that
is,
people who think, I'll just finish this real quick. People who think that they can be entrepreneurs and that they could tackle a business and master a business, slay the dragon, so to speak. We think differently anyway. We tend to not follow rules. We tend to draw outside of the lines. We tend to be, in many respects, unhireable because of those very independent streaks and traits that we have. Is that
very true.
What you've experienced? Yeah. Sorry, I cut you off there, Kurt.
No, 100%. I was just wanting to make sure I answer your question, but to your first question of like, did that help me into my next journey? Absolutely. Just knowing that you need systems in place to follow, is pretty important. But to your second question, there is, I really do believe that true entrepreneurs, like true bred entrepreneurs, are born, they're not created. And there's, I'm not saying that there's not entrepreneurs that are just, that wasn't born that way and became an entrepreneur. I think the guys that are born that way, I think I was born that way. The reason why I say that is I don't really feel like I have a choice. This is just who I am. I've born this way. And honestly, I don't know if I would, if someone said, hey, I want to either work for someone or be an entrepreneur, I'd probably lean them towards working for somebody just because of the pain that you go through as an entrepreneur. And I think we're just wired differently. And I've tried being an employee for a couple of years. I had 2 years where I worked for somebody else. It did not go well, Mike. Did not go well on my side at all. So yeah, to your point is we're just wired that way,
Yeah, I joke on the show that we talk about behavioral spectrums and things like that. I do think there's a reserved spot on the spectrum for entrepreneurs. We definitely are going to be in the psychological DSM manual at some point. We're going to have our own chapter in it because we are wired differently. And I do believe 100% you're accurate. I do believe we're born that way. We are entrepreneurial. Now, not every entrepreneurial person becomes an entrepreneur. Many don't. Many just go from job to job to job. They keep getting fired. They can't figure out why. They can't just get along. They can't just fit into a team. They can't stay quiet. They just got to speak up. But people who do go into entrepreneurship that are successful are entrepreneurial people. And that doesn't guarantee success by any means, but it helps. I think it definitely helps. At some point, you walked away from that chapter and made a major life pivot. So you started off being the franchisee, then you became the franchisor. And then one day you said, stop, I'm out. I got to do something different.
Yeah.
What was happening internally that made you say, I need to start something different? I'm out.
Well, I'd hit 40, and a lot of guys that age start to feel the clock, the pressure of time on
Yeah.
them. Of like, whoa, if I leave, even if I live till 80, I'm midlife, right? And I might not live
Right.
till 80. And then after I hit 60, what's my quality of life going to be? I might only have 15
I
years,
can
10
tell you your
years of
quality of
quality
life is
of
going to
life.
be great after 60. I'm 5 years after 60, and so far things are still great.
That's
So,
great. Well, good, Mike. Well, you look healthy, you
and the
look in
older
shape,
you
but
get, the more you keep pushing out your version of what old is, right? I remember when I was in
Mhm.
my teens, 30 was old. I didn't even know if I'd make
Oh,
it
for
to
sure.
30. And then I recalibrated to 40 and then 50. And then now I think my version of old is 109. I'm just pushing it way
Yeah, yeah,
out as far as I can.
yeah, for sure. So, I was feeling that time kind of set in, and at the moment, if I look back when I was 39 turning 40, I owned a lot of different businesses. And one thing I learned by that is if you do a lot of things, you probably don't do very many of them well. And I didn't learn also the lesson of being able to build a business that runs without my input. So I was very stretched and pulled into a lot of different directions of my businesses that still needed my input. And then, as you know, being an entrepreneur, is you don't. It's not like you're the fireman. You're the one putting out all the fires, and only the biggest fires get to you. So your entire day now is putting out multiple very large fires, very big problems of the businesses, and that's what your entire day consists of. So I was just kind of feeling a bit burned out on that. I was in an industry I didn't really want to be in anymore, in the sports nutrition industry. So I just got to a moment of like, this is not really what I want to be spending my time doing, and just decided to do a completely different pivot. And here's the question I asked myself to help me make the decision. I said, if I had all the money in the world in my bank account, whatever that dollar amount is, maybe it's millions, whatever it is, but I didn't have to worry about any kind of money anymore in my bank account, what would I actually be doing in my life? And my answer was, I want to go on very cool adventures. I want to go on hunting adventures, very remote, into the wild. And then I thought, well, I don't need all the money in the world to do that. I could do that now. Why am I not doing exactly what I want to be doing in life? So I went to my wife, which we have kids, and I said, hey, here's what I want to do. And bless her heart, she said, okay, well, I trust you. I trust you'll get it figured out. And I sold anything I could to make some money. Honestly, probably 60%, 70% of my businesses I just shut down and closed because they weren't as profitable to be able to make money on them. So I just shut down and closed a lot of stuff. I sold what I could, made some money to be able to go on these hunting adventures for a couple of years, ran out of money really quick because hunting can be very expensive. And then I had to figure out how to make money in the industry.
That's interesting. There's a couple things you said that resonated with me. One was, you spent a lot of time putting out fires. I started a business 34 years ago, which I still own today. And I spent a lot of time in my early years putting out fires that I started. I was both the
No.
arsonist and the firefighter all in one. And then eventually you kind of stop starting fires and you just start putting out other fires. But the thing you mentioned that only the biggest fires got to you, that's something that most business people don't think about. As you start to scale a business, as you start to hire employees and you build your team starts handling, particularly if you have a competent team, they handle all the stuff that you were
Mhm.
handling. And basically they solve problems up to the point of their competence. And then the only thing that comes to you are the biggest, worst, scariest, most difficult
Yeah,
problems, the ones they even
exactly.
couldn't figure out. And they're good because you hired them because they're good. So you go
Hmm.
from solving easy problems, hard problems, medium problems, to only getting the toughest things on your desk. And I didn't realize that. I'm like, hey, once I hire all these smart people, I don't even know if I'm going to come in anymore. This is going to be great. And it was in many ways, but the problems I did get were major. It's like, oh my
Yeah.
God, yeah, we're all going to have to get together on this one. And you said something else, which I learned several years ago, and I'll add one more caveat to it. You said, well, what if I had all the time? You said, what if I had all the money to do, hunting full time? A lot of business people have a block, a deer in the headlights moment when they can't make a decision, and they're locked in fear, much like deer in the headlights. So they don't make a decision. And what someone told me quite a few years ago, which I embraced, and it makes total sense, is ask yourself, okay, I either need to go left or right. What do I do? I don't know. I can't afford to go right. I don't have enough time or money to go right. I guess I'll just go left. Take time and money off the table. You took money off the table. Take time and money off the table. Just reformat the question in your head. What if I had all the money in the world? What if I had all the time in the world? What would I do? Well, of course, Kurt, I'd go right. Of course, Mike, I'd go hunting all the time. Of course. Well, you once you make the decision that that's the right move, guess what happens next? You start finding the money and the time, 100% of the time. But you won't even be able to climb that money and time mountain until you first make the decision, this is the right move. This is what Kurt needs to be doing. And then all of a sudden, you almost manifest the time and the money. It just works out. Or you now have a clear view of how to hunt for the time and the money. But unless you make the decision, it's like the business gods are going to go, Kurt, you haven't even decided if you want to do this. We're not going to help you solve the time and the money thing. Wait till you make a decision. Okay. So I think there's a lot of savvy business advice there. So a lot of people dream about chasing adventure, and very few build a real business around it. There's probably a lot of entrepreneurs right now who are very jealous of you right now. They probably hate you just a tiny bit because they want to be Kurt.
Sure.
And what was the scariest part of turning Western Obsessions from an idea into something real? I know everyone wishes they could do their passion as a for-profit business, but I'm sure it was risky. It was scary. I'm sure it did bring in some fear, trying to build your dream. Tell me about that part of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot of risk involved. And I'll back up the time machine a little bit to in my early 20s. I owned 50% of a GNC store. Things weren't going well because I was a knucklehead, right? So I had to make a risky move and go start my own brand. And I was in my 20s, so I didn't have a wife, I didn't have family, I didn't really need to make that much money. So it was a calculated risk, knowing that I didn't need much to pull it off. And I lived on my buddy's couch for 2 years and figured it out, right? But now I'm making another move and another huge risk. But now it's different. It's different circumstances. I have a wife, I have a family, I have a home, I have a lot to lose. And, and making that move and that risk felt way more risky because of the family, right? So that was one of the huge fears that I had, making that move. And the other big fear is when you really love to do something or you have a passion about something, it's great when it's a hobby. But the other fear is like, what if I try to make this my living and do this all the time? You worry about you may not like that anymore. Like you're beating up that passion and turning that into something you have to make money, and you may not enjoy it anymore. What if I get a couple years down the road and I don't enjoy it anymore? So that was two major fears.
What if the hobby turns into a grind, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
Well, and that's worse in so many ways because A, it could hurt your business, and B, it takes away the love and the novelty of the hobby, right? It's lose-lose.
Exactly.
That's the worst case anyway.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. But the pressure of time and I don't want to be retired 70, 80 years old, maybe on my deathbed looking back, God, I wish I would have taken that jump and that risk. I stayed in a place where it was safe because I'd already built this company, and I want, if I didn't make the move, I would have been protecting the company I built in a safe place. But I didn't want that regret. So it was really no choice for me. I had to make the move.
Yeah. Jim Collins, the author Jim Collins, in his book Good to Great, came up with a slogan which I love: "The enemy of great is good." And you were doing good, right? Money was probably fine. I mean, you were entrepreneurial. You were kind of on your own. And who wants to risk good for the chance of getting better, a chance of being great? It's a lot of people find just satisfaction doing like good enough, right? And particularly if they started not good. I spent many years building my business, and for the first several years, it was not good. Good was not in my vocabulary. The only time good would be said, it was good night or good riddance, or I'm glad that the week's over. So when the company started doing good, I was just quite happy to coast for a long time, maybe forever. It's like, I don't want to go bad again. I do not ever want to live that again. That was awful. So maybe I'll just stay here in the safety of, the good world. And fortunately, I didn't. Fortunately, I strove to say, okay, good. Nice staying here for a while. Thanks. It's been great. I owe you. I'm out. And we just keep trying to build more and more and more and more and more. That's just the way we are wired. Western Obsessions is built around showing the full reality of hunting. I was watching several of your episodes, and I was quite surprised at the grittiness. It's not like one polished episode where you go out searching for the big bull elk, and you find it, and you pull your arrow back, and boom, next thing you know, you're posing next to it, and it's like, okay, we'll see you next week. And I mean, it had a lot of detail and grit and frustration in several of the episodes. So you're not just showing polished success. Why was that important to you?
Well, growing up, I used to love watching hunting videos. I watched quite a few of them because I was bitten by the hunting bug pretty early in life and really enjoyed it. And I also really liked watching movies. Movies, I call it my drug, where by watching a movie, it takes you out of your reality and it can make you feel something different, right? So you're in a completely different reality, and then you're feeling an emotion, might be happy, scared, sad. Like, it'll make you feel something different. So I really enjoyed that part of filming my own hunts. But what I did not like about some of the hunting film, it wasn't realistic, and people watching had an unrealistic expectation when they went hunting of like, well, everybody else goes hunting and it's really easy for them and they kill anything they're hunting for. That is not the truth. That's not the reality. The reality of it is maybe 10% of the time people actually kill an animal when you're out hunting, which is not even the value of hunting. That's the goal. But the value is doing hard things, is being out in nature, immersing yourself in nature, being away from the stresses and the everyday to-dos. Like, there's a lot of value by going hunting. That's not just killing an animal. So I wanted to show all that. I wanted to show me messing up because I wanted the new hunter or the maybe more novice hunter to see that it's okay to make mistakes. Because nowadays, especially with social media, people only see the highlight reel, only see the best of everybody. And that really sets a bad expectation. And so when someone goes out on a hunt and they're like, well, I didn't kill anything, they may think they're a bad hunter and think less of themselves, but they're setting an expectation that's not true. So
And then
really
stop doing something they would otherwise love, right? Because
exactly.
they think that if they don't come back with a trophy, they're not going to go out again,
Yeah. Yeah.
Or
And
not
then
too
they're
many
missing
times.
the actual valuable part of going out hunting.
Yeah.
The valuable part is not necessarily killing something. That's just icing on the cake. It's everything else is the valuable part.
Do you think that showing failure builds more trust with your audience?
I think it hurts me sometimes, but yes, I do think it builds trust with the right audience. I
Mm.
get a lot of negative feedback from other hunters that believe that maybe they would have done something different and better in the moment, right? So I get a lot of negative comments, and then obviously there's a huge community of anti-hunting people that are very against hunting, and I get it. I understand their side of it. So I get a lot of negative uh, backlash from that too, which, in my opinion, there's some ignorance there. They don't fully understand the other side, right?
Well,
So
a
my
lot of the time, they're the same people that are standing at the grocery store in the butcher department. You know,
for sure,
they would
yeah.
rather have the animals they eat farmed than hunted. And yeah,
Yeah.
I think there is, for people who really have that point of view, great, all power to you. Eat your vegetables, farm the land yourself, all that. I respect that point of view as applied to themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And but if you're going to have that point of view, be consistent, right? I mean,
Hmm.
don't
Yeah.
say Kurt's an evil person because he's shooting deer, and then go out for venison at your local fancy restaurant. It's like, okay, come
Hmm.
on, let's get consistent here.
For sure.
But anyway, yeah, we could talk about that for hours. I'm not a hunter
Mhm.
myself, and I know me because I would be the world's absolute worst hunter because I would purposely give myself away because I don't want to see little Bambi, get
Hmm.
an arrow in the head or a bullet. That's just me, not through judgment at all. I'm just a
Hmm.
wuss when it comes to that. I'm not, quote unquote, man enough to be able to do that. And I know that about me, and that's cool. But I would be the person that would want to go along with you and maybe carry some of your gear and feel rough for the moment, feel a little Grizzly Adams,
Yeah.
something I'm not. That to me would be a really cool adventure. But anyway, we're going down a rabbit hole here. There's a line between passion and obsession, which is a line a lot of
Mhm.
entrepreneurs cross. In business, that line can be dangerous. How do you know when obsession is helping you and when it's starting to cost you? I mean, you got to be obsessed by an idea when you start a
Hmm.
company, right?
You
That's
do.
just part of it. But how do you know if you've crossed the line?
Well, I think there's different layers of obsession. I think the I think you need to be obsessed to be successful. I don't think you could be successful without obsession.
Hmm.
Like you could do things that you like, or you could do your business or your job and not be obsessed with it, and you may do okay, but you're not going to be great. In order to be great at what you're doing, you have to be obsessed with it. Now, when the obsession may take it too far is when it's negatively affecting those around you, like your family. That
Hmm.
possibly could be taking it too far, or your health, right? So if I said, okay, I'm obsessed with my building my business, and I stop eating healthy and I don't go to the gym and I just spend 15 hours a day on my computer for the next 6 months, that's probably not healthy for me, right? And which could go a little bit too far. I just think there's levels to it.
Your other business, Hunt Adventures, is essentially a trust business. You're connecting people with outfitters and experiences. They each have to trust
Mhm.
each other. You have to trust them. How do you protect that trust, especially when a bad experience could damage your brand?
Yeah, well, it's hunting, right? It's not, they're not buying an animal. And that's one thing that we have to definitely get across is like when someone comes to me and says, hey,
No guarantee.
I
Yeah.
there's no guarantee. And so they come to me and say, look, I really want to go on this type of adventure or this type of hunt. What we can do for our company is say, hey, we have these outfitters that can take you on that experience. They're vetted. Either I've hunted with them personally or my colleagues have. So we know they're a good operation, or historically they've been a good operation. But this that's historically. So this next time out, the outfitter might be going through a divorce or some life happened, and
Hmm.
it may go sideways. We don't know, but based upon historical data, he or she has done a great job in their business, and this is who we'd recommend. But again, it's still hunting. You are paying to go on this adventure. You're not paying for a dead animal. So we can say, okay, 70% of the time they kill animals with their hunters. So 3 out of the 10 don't. So you might be 3 of the 10. So I think what I'm getting across here, Mike, is just brutal honesty. I
Yeah.
think people would respect honesty, where I'm not going to oversell something, say, "Oh, you're going to kill and you're going to have a great time," and da 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 da. I'm like, "Well, here's the historical facts, and I don't know though, but we feel confident in it for you." You know.
Yeah, I think that's a good lesson in setting expectations. For years, Kurt, for years, the airline industry, had surveys like JD Power or whatever BS survey thing they do. And the one airline that I think for 10 or 12 years in a row that had the highest level of customer satisfaction was Southwest. Southwest, the airline that up to now didn't let you reserve a seat, the airline that didn't feed you a meal, the airline that was bare bones, right?
Mm-hmm.
Had higher levels of customer satisfaction than all the legacy carriers that served you meals, that provided booze, that let you pick a seat, that had a premium section if you wanted to sit in it. And the reason they kept winning was because their expectation, the expectation they set was, we're going to take off relatively on time, we're going to land relatively on time, we'll give you a soda, and we will try really hard not to kill you or lose your bag. If you landed reasonably on time with your bag of peanuts and they didn't kill you, you're satisfied because that was the expectation, right? So
Yeah.
I think in your case, I mean, you want to be able to say, we guarantee a win, every time,
Mm-hmm.
a kill every time. But that's not reality. That's not life. And so you set the expectation. People are satisfied. They might be disappointed, but they're
Yeah.
satisfied with the experience, right? Maybe not with the outcome. Do you
Yeah. And
film when you do in Western Adventures? Do you film with a crew, or are you doing this solo?
both, either I bring a videographer with me or I'll do it on my own. Just depends on the type of hunt and the budget of the company. Because videographers, that's good amount of money. They're like, I'm going on an Alaska moose hunt here in September, and I'll be gone for 2 weeks. That's 14 days that I would need to bring someone in the field, and that can add up for their day rate, right? So I
Do they
do
ruin their
both.
chance of a kill? I mean, are they the? I mean, I can see
Hmm.
you in the blind. You're doing all your stealthy things. You're moving slowly, and then some guy with a camera who may not be a hunter. He may be a great videographer, but he may not be a hunter. Does that make it a little bit more challenging when you have to like drag a crew with you?
Oh, for sure. Well, and it's also very challenging to try to film on my own. I've probably messed up more hunts by filming myself than a videographer with me, just because it's very, very difficult to try to do both hunt and film. But to your point, yeah, videographers, I really try to bring the guys that understand hunting or that have been hunting before, and they get how to be quiet and then move stealthy through the woods or whatever. But now you have two people, so you have double the noise, you have double the smell, you have double the visibility. So it does make things quite a bit more difficult.
You're a hunter. Do you ever feel like you're becoming the hunted? Are there times when
I
that
have had
happens?
Yes, I have had one hunt, which was a grizzly bear hunt in Alaska, that I felt it could be a dangerous situation, that I was no longer on the top of the food chain, you know.
All of us entrepreneurs, as we start to scale our company, we have to start hiring people. We have to build a team. And part of that team is
Mhm.
vetting. We have to vet the accountant. Do they know how to balance books, manage books? We have to vet the salespeople, the service people, all the different people. In your world, particularly for hunt adventures, you have to vet the outfitters. And the outcome, if you don't get people who know what they're doing, could be quite disastrous, right? I mean, the stakes are pretty
Mhm.
high. You're not just vetting, a guy that stocks a shelf. You're where if they screw up, your shelf's not stocked. In this case, it has a
Right.
lot of repercussions. What does your vetting process actually look like?
Well, most of the time I personally go hunt with them. So I spend a week, to 10 days with that outfitter to get to know the person, get to know their integrity, how they run their operation, experience what a customer would be experiencing. So either I do it or my colleagues do it, my other consultants, they have vetted. So we feel very confident that, hey, we've experienced this and we know exactly what you're going to be doing and going through. So that's really the major vetting part. And sometimes it comes from, okay, we really trust this outfitter, and this outfitter says, hey, you should look at so and so to also help book and to work with. Then we'll look at that and see if we can get there as fast as we can to spend some time with them.
Hunting requires patience, preparation, and the ability to stay calm when things don't go as planned, which is like every day, right?
Right.
In the entrepreneurial world. Which of these traits transfers most directly into entrepreneurship for you?
I mean, they all really do. The biggest thing is staying calm when things are burning down around you or going definitely sideways around you. And that's something as I get better at the older I get in entrepreneurship is there's always things going sideways. There's always problems. That's just part of it. And I've just learned that it's typically they're not as a big of a deal as what I think they may be in the moment, right? So just stay calm, work out the solutions, try not to get emotional about things and figure out the problems, right? So one thing I learned was you may have a game plan going into a hunt. Hey, here's how we're going to hunt it. You may have a game plan going into a business. This is my business plan. Most of the time, that will not work. That business plan is not going to work. The game plan is not going to work on the hunt. And it's really, the game plan number 112 will actually be the business plan that works. And same thing with hunting is, well, that game plan is not working. Let's game plan number 10 may work. You just got to pivot and continue to push forward towards your goal and just never give up.
What's next for Kurt? What's next for Hunted Ventures or
Mm-hmm.
the other company and Kurt itself?
What One thing I learned kind of the hard way, it took me a long time to learn at my old businesses, is you continually need to level up. You're either growing or you're dying. There is no staying the same. So if you're in a business, think, oh, I'm good right here, I'm just going to stay the same. If you're not actively pursuing to get better and level up, you will slowly die. There is no staying the same. So for my business, I'm looking at how to level up. And a lot of times that is either leveling up with new staff, people that are better, or leveling up with technology. AI is a really big part of my business now. So, leveling up with the way that I film hunts. Like I just want to continue to grow and get better. So on the TV side, I want to level up on how we produce the episodes. I really want to bring the viewer in so they feel like they're experiencing the hunt with me. And on the business side of it, of the booking agency, we're probably going to move more into owning our own operations to have a little bit more control of that outcome and the inventory. That would be the next steps for us.
Excellent. And finally, I like to end every conversation with this question: how did you define success? How did young 20-something-year-old Kurt, back when you were young and not old, like 40, how did young Kurt define success, and how does 40-plus Kurt define success now?
Yeah, I think the biggest misperception that I had when I was in my 20s was I really wanted to retire by the time I was 30 or 35 because I thought that was old, right, Mike?
Of
Like, oh
course.
man, if I could retire by then I'm really successful and I made it. Well, now that I'm 46, I realize that I will never retire. And it's not because it's not a financial goal of mine, it's because I enjoy it. I really enjoy the game of building and creating and systems you know, so I think success for me and my family right now is freedom, is the
Mm.
freedom to live the life that I want to live in the way that I want to live it for my family and myself. And I have that. And I want to continue to have that. And it has nothing to do with retirement anymore.
Yeah, I love that. I think you hit on something that a lot of entrepreneurs either have discovered or will discover, and that is it's not the destination, it's the journey.
Yeah.
That I mean, I'm in it for the journey. I used to think I was in it for the destination, I knew what the destination looked like. I knew the city on the hill. I knew, how I was going to spend all my money. I knew what I was going to buy. I knew all that. I think now, it's like a mirage. You're driving on a freeway, on a highway, and it's a hot summer day, and you see what looks like the highway 5 miles ahead is covered in water, right? You see this mirage, and the closer you get to it, the further away it gets, right? And you actually never reach it. And I think that's very similar to entrepreneurship. Yeah, many people do have the payday, but what do? After a year or so, they can't stand their lives. They go do it again and again and again, because it's the journey that feeds us, not so much the destination. We are marching toward a destination, but like a mirage in the desert, I think that it just keeps getting pushed off, and then we wash, rinse, repeat. We just do it again because we love the journey. So for my audience who would like to get more information on Western Adventures or Western Obsession, yes, I want to make sure you have too many companies, Kurt. I can't keep track of them all.
Well, I've tried to simplify.
Yeah, there you go. Western Obsessions and Hunt Adventures. If you'd like to get more information on that, if you're watching this on YouTube today, look down here, right below me, it says see more, and the URL for all that will be there in the see more section on YouTube. If you're listening to this on your favorite podcast app, of course, just go to that podcast app. And when you're not hunting or driving a car or anything like that, when it's safe to do so, go to the podcast app, look at the show notes, and Kurt's contact information through his company will be there as well. Kurt, I have a lot of, I'm very impressed with what you do. I have a lot of admiration for what you do, and it's cool. You just got a cool factor that many of us don't have. So keep up the good work, and I wish you continued success and happy hunting.
Thanks, Mike. I appreciate that. Thanks for having me on.
Okay, here are some final thoughts. What I appreciate most about Kurt's story is that it reminds us that entrepreneurship isn't always a straight line. Sometimes the business we start isn't the business we end up building. Sometimes the version of success we chase early in life doesn't quite fit well later on. And sometimes the bigger risk isn't walking away from something familiar. The bigger risk is staying in long after we know we're meant to do something else. His story also shows us how much overlap there is between entrepreneurship and the outdoors. In both worlds, preparation matters, patience matters, grit matters. But even with all the preparation in the world, things can still go wrong. The weather changes, the shot doesn't line up, the plan falls apart. And in business, just like hunting, you find out pretty quickly whether you're willing to keep going when the early version of the story disappears. I also like that Western Obsession seems to be built around reality rather than perfection. The missed shots, the setbacks, the hard climbs, the uncomfortable moments, those are usually the parts people try and hide. But they're often the parts that make the story worth telling. And for entrepreneurs, I think there's a lesson in that. Trust isn't built by pretending everything works out perfectly. Trust is built by being honest about what it actually takes. And at the end of the day, your journey is more than hunting. It's about reinvention. It's about taking the scars from one chapter of life and using them to build the next one. It's about knowing when to pivot, when to commit, when to push forward, and when to take the shot. Now, that is a wrap. Thanks for being part of our Reluctant Entrepreneur family. We've been very busy recording future episodes with amazing guests, so be sure to subscribe and get notified when new episodes drop. If you're an entrepreneur or know someone who would make a great guest, we'd love to hear from you. Visit reluctantentrepreneur.podcast.com, where you can apply or recommend a guest or just learn more about the show. And a couple of shameless plugs. I've started a new series under the Reluctant Entrepreneur brand. The new series is called Reluctant Lessons, Where Businesses Go Wrong. On this series, we dig into high-profile business failures and the story behind it all. So far, we've profiled numerous companies, including Rubbermaid, Kodak, Blockbuster, BlackBerry, Toys R Us, DeLorean Motor Company, and many more to come. There's no shortage. Check them out on this channel. And if you're interested in my book, The Reluctant Entrepreneur, Anatomy of a Business Startup from Uncertainty to Unstoppable. It's available in paperback and Kindle on Amazon, and as an audiobook on both Audible and Amazon. And finally, to everyone listening or watching, if you find yourself stepping into entrepreneurship, whether by choice or by circumstance, remember this: sometimes the path we never planned becomes the journey we were meant to take. Thanks so much for being here. I truly appreciate all of you, and I'll see you again soon.